When it comes to movement in Deadlock, there's so many different things to look at, whether it's stamina usage, wall jumps, dash jumping, sliding, strafing, and so many other mechanics that aren't explained anywhere by the game, that the question that I get asked the most often is, hey Deathy, how do I actually improve at movement? Well, in today's video, I'm very happy to say that I'm partnering with Leif for this video so that we can explore, from my perspective, movement techniques that I actually use as an Eternus 6 player and the order in which I would recommend you learn them. And on his side, he's going to teach you about more advanced movement techniques as well as the theory behind some stuff and explaining it a little bit more in depth. Without further ado, let's get right into it. First thing when it comes to practicing movement is you have to go and explore NYC. I would highly recommend that this is what you do. And before we get into anything, if you're just in queue and you want to just explore the map, there is an option. But what I'd recommend is that you just practice your movement around here and practice things like wall jumping on these pillars, etc. Now, let's get into the map. Now that we're in the map, before getting into any specific, stamina or techniques, I want to talk about stamina regen. If you hover over Mina, right? And you can see here, stamina cooldown is 3.9 seconds. Now, if I go to a different hero, for example, I go to Infernus and I check the same thing, 4.5 seconds for stamina regen. And if I go to another hero, like for example, like Kelvin, you can see 5.5 second stamina regen. Now, the only thing that you really need to remember is that Kelvin has significantly longer than average stamina regen, and that Mina has shorter stamina regen. As far as I'm aware, I believe every other hero in the game has the same stamina, but at the time when you're watching this video, this could have changed. So just be aware that you can look at a hero and see how fast their stamina regens. There's also another thing, which is base stamina. So every hero starts with either 2, 3, or 4 stamina. For example, the standard tends to be 3, but recently there's been a lot of 2 stamina heroes being added. For example, Graves, for example, Mina, heroes like that. The amount of stamina that you have base doesn't affect anything other than, how much stamina you can store up, right? But it doesn't affect your regen necessarily. So even though Graves has 2 stamina, her stamina regen isn't inherently faster. Now, I just want to mention that stamina is a resource, right? So you should usually probably not be sitting on full stamina, but you should also be not spamming your stamina, especially if you need it when you're about to escape. So if I'm about to go to a fight, I might not use all of my stamina right away, depending on how fast I might need to get to it, because then it's possible maybe I get to the fight and I don't have any stamina to use during the fight, which would not be ideal. So just something to think about. Use your stamina mindfully when you're moving around the map and try to think about, how much stamina you're spending versus what's the, risk to reward. Do you need to use your stamina right away? Are you going to need to make it to a fight? And also, what are the ways to maintain more stamina while moving around efficiently, which are in the movement techniques we'll talk about. Now, if you're a newer player or you're not familiar with movement, the first thing that you should learn is the zipline movement, okay? So what I mean by this is that anytime you want to go somewhere on the map, you want to get on the zipline and then you want to let go of the zipline with control and then instantly air dash. Now, this is most movement guides, but this is honestly the most important movement technique, and I'll show you a bunch of different things that you can do with it. But let's say you just want to traverse the map, or let's say, for example, you're in the mid lane and you want to go to the shop, right? Well, one thing that you can do is you can just take the zip line here, do this into a wall jump, and that wasn't even really that well executed, but all of a sudden I'm at the shop, right? So similarly, anytime I'm trying to move around the map, I'll always ask myself, okay, is there a zip line that I can use? So I'm in mid lane, I want to go gank on the other lane, I can take the zip line here, give me that initial momentum, and then I can kind of make my way towards the jump pad. And anytime that you can use a zip line to move around, you should. For example, I'm coming back to the lane, I want to go to the shop, let me just use the zip line, go to the shop. Now, that wasn't like really that useful, but you just want to get into the habit of using this to move around the map and always doing it. Now, after that, I would say that in the general kind of learning speed, you're going to want to learn to do like dash jumps into a slide and then kind of like a bunny hop to maintain your momentum a little bit. This is a very, very like easy movement technique that can allow you to traverse a little bit more ground and cover more ground as well. So this is the second thing that I would learn to do and move around the map like this. And if you can combine this with slides on stairs, it can be pretty easy to like maintain momentum for a long time, and then you can combine it with wall jumps, which we'll discuss in a little bit. Keep in mind, this isn't necessarily the most efficient way to get across the map in a lot of situations, but it's a very easy way and it will be useful in certain situations, so I'd recommend you learn that second. Now, another thing is, let's say that you're low on ammo and you need to shoot your gun there's a lot of times where dashing into a slide may be useful. For example, here I have 4 ammo left on Graves and I want to kill this guy. Well, I can dash into a slide and that'll allow me to kind of keep shooting for a little bit. So this is probably the third thing that I would do, and just sliding in general is very important, especially in the laning stage. If you're, for example, on very, very low ammo, or you're playing a character like Graves who wants to keep shooting her gun, well, implementing slides on any surface that you can will help you kind of like make your mag, as you can see, go for significantly longer. So learn the things that you can slide on, but pretty much any slope you can slide on, it's going to help you a lot. You can also do, we'll talk about kind of like instant air dash into slide later, but you can dash slide right away and this can help you. And it's a very, very useful technique, which leads us into the next sliding technique, which is a mantle slide. Now, a mantle slide is when you mantle on something. So this is a mantle, which is you hold W and you press space. While you mantle, if you hold control, you'll slide off the thing and it gives you a little bit of extra momentum. So for example, you're trying to escape, you do this, you do a mantle slide into an air dash, and all of a sudden you just gained significant momentum. So anytime that you're mantling, you should pretty much be mantle sliding. Like there's some situations where you shouldn't be, but a lot of the time you definitely want to consider mantle sliding and you want to get used to it. As you can see here, heavy melee into a mantle slide. This is incredibly, incredibly important because it'll allow you to gain significant momentum while somebody chases you. And so I would highly, highly recommend that you just always mantle slide by default. It's not always optimal, but at least if you just get used to it, it's going to be much easier to then determine when mantle sliding shouldn't be done. Now, the next movement technique is a little bit more complicated, and it is the instant air dash. Okay, so an instant air dash is when you jump and then you air dash, but you do it very quickly and it looks like this, right? So that's what an instant air dash looks like. It's just I jump and then I instantly air dash forward or in any direction. You know, it doesn't matter. I can do it to the side. I can do it behind if I enable fast stamina. I can go behind. I can go forward in any direction. These are all instant air dashes. The first thing about this movement technique is how do you do this more easily? Because you can press spacebar and shift, but if you do it kind of like this, it's very likely that you might be a little bit slow at it, right? Especially if you don't got super quick fingers. So there's actually a bit of a trick that you can do with your keybinds, which is you go into your keybinds and then you select all heroes. And when it comes to your dash, you're going to go to your movement keybinds, okay? And what I've done is I've bound dash to shift and V. So when it comes to instant air dashing, all I have to do is spacebar and V with the same, I press it with my thumb kind of both at the same time, spacebar first and then V slightly after, but it's just one activation. It's very easy for me to do that with my thumb, which allows me to instant air dash extremely consistently, while still keeping dash on shift so I didn't ruin my muscle memory, because, I have like thousands of hours of muscle memory of dash being on shift. And so to me, spacebar plus V is my instant air dash bind. Now, there's actually other ways to do this that are a little bit easier, but I think those might get removed. So I would stick with kind of rebinding air dash to a different key. And like I said, you can just add an additional keybind just like I did, so you don't replace the original one, so you don't mess up your muscle memory. And this makes it very, very easy. Now, why would you instant air dash, right? The first biggest advantage of instant air dashing is that you're actionable the whole time. This is particularly important on a hero like Graves. So if I shoot this Infernus, right, and I want to keep shooting, if I slide, you can see it stops shooting while I slide, right? So sorry, not slide, but while I use stamina. So if I dash forward, it stops shooting. I dash forward, doesn't shoot. Dash, doesn't shoot. However, if I do the same thing, but I do an instant air dash instead, it keeps shooting the whole time, right? Now you can do this with the regular air dash as well, but this allows you to chase people very effectively. So if Infernus is running away from you, you can instant air dash and keep shooting while sliding as well. Not only can you do that, you can also parry while instant air dashing, right? So if you're trying to escape from a Billy, let's say Billy's chasing you and you want to escape while parrying, you can indeed do that. So that gives you more options. And on top of that, it's very easy to pair it into wall jumps. You have a little bit more control over your character, right? Than if you just did a dash, which the dash kind of keeps you very straight. Once you start dashing, you're very, very straight, so you don't have a lot of control over your character. Because if you do an instant air dash, it's a little bit easier to then pair that into a wall jump. Now, there's plenty of other advantages to instant air dash. I'm not an expert about all its benefits. All I can tell you is that if you have stamina mastery, which increases your air jump and dash distance, you are always better off instant air dashing than using regular dashes. So if you have stamina mastery, you should never use regular dashes. You should always use instant air dashes instead, because they will take you much, much further, especially if you are one of the heroes that has kind of like bucket 2 or bucket 3 stamina. Now, for those of you that don't know what the buckets are, basically when you hover over this, there's your dash speed. So your dash speed is determined by your bucket. There's bucket 1, bucket 2, and bucket 3. Bucket 3 being the slowest and bucket 1 being the fastest. For example, Paradox has the fastest dash speed in bucket 1, and then a hero like Abrams is bucket 3 with the slowest dash speed in the game. And this can affect how good instant air dashing as well as stamina mastery is. So if it's better for bucket 1 heroes and it's worse for bucket 3 heroes. Now, I talked a lot about wall jumps, and this brings us to kind of the next point, which is I think that you should get really, really familiar with wall jumps, especially and considering them as a free stamina. Okay, so anytime that you're moving around the map, if you watch me play, you'll notice that I wall jump quite a lot, right? So if I'm trying to get somewhere, I'm going to be using wall jumps, and there's a lot of reasons for that. One of the reasons for that is wall jumps essentially allow you to control your character and be a lot more predictable, a lot less predictable with less stamina. For example, here, let's say I've got 4 stamina and I'm trying to make it up there, right? The logic would indicate that I'm just going to go up here, right? Let's say I want it to be as fast as possible. I could use stamina. I could do this into a double jump, right? Do this, go right here, use my heavy melee to mantle up, and then I would be up here. So that's one way to do it. However, what I could also do is I could start right here, do a wall jump into an air dash, into a melee, right? Do another wall jump. And as you can see, this only took me 1 stamina. Now, of course, I do have stamina mastery. I want you to think anytime you're escaping, let's say I'm being chased by someone, right? I'm being chased by Billy. Okay, I'm going to use a wall jump right here, move forward, going to use another wall jump here, mantle slide, combine that, another wall jump for free stamina, right? And you just want to try to do the wall jump so it propels you forward and you don't use stamina to do it. So it's kind of like a free movement option because the first wall jump doesn't take any stamina, and even subsequent wall jumps don't take a lot of stamina, so it can still be worth it to do. And it can also allow you to change your trajectory. Let's say you wall jump and then you can instantly go backwards, try to be a little bit unpredictable that way. But you should be wall jumping like extremely, extremely often when you're traversing the map. You definitely want to be doing that and then combining that with, air dashes. Now, the last thing that I'm going to cover for my part is vents and air strafing. So when it comes to vents, okay, these vents I would say are almost as important as zipline movement text to move around the map. Anytime that you're moving somewhere, let's say that I'm in the middle lane, right, and I want to gank, I would combine the zipline tech with the vents in order to move around faster. So I'll get on the zipline, strafe to the right, and then I'll get to the vents, and then I'll combine that with wall jump for free stamina. So boom, get the wall jump, as you can see, and then that can make your rotation significantly faster. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is that on vents, if you hold W, as you can see, you'll just kind of go in a straight line. Okay, and they'll take you straight there. However, if you let go of W and hold A if you want to go to the left, for example, like this, you can actually air strafe extremely significantly. And I'm not even playing Celeste or Holiday, heroes that can have increased air control. I'm playing Graves, which is not exactly a hero with great movement, but this can allow you to change your path significantly. Let's say I want to go to the right from here, for example. As you can see, I can accomplish quite a lot by just strafing. So the way that strafing is done very simply is you look to the right or you look to the left. And if you're looking to the left, you hold A like this. I'm going to look to the left and hold A. And you kind of want to move your mouse as you're kind of like holding A smoothly. And then if I want to move to the right, I'll hold D, and then I'll kind of move my mouse like this a little bit, very smoothly transition to the right side. And air strafing can be used in a lot of different ways. And of course, with characters like Celeste or Holiday matters a lot more. But when you're on bounce pad, there's a lot of cool little paths, as you can see. For example, this one is one that I like a decent amount. Another one that you can do if you just stole the doubles, for example, is you can go on this one and then you can kind of air strafe to the left side. And as you can see, you can be able to like make it out pretty safely. And the last one I'll show you guys is if you're trying to gank this lane, for example, and you're on Lash, you could do something like this and just go over the roof. Now, of course, I have stamina mastery, so it's a little bit easier, but you can do this without stamina mastery and then just, you're behind the enemy lanes. That would be here. Now, that's it for my part. Just remember, movement can be very, very creative in Deadlock, and you can kind of do whatever you want with it. So take everything I said with a grain of salt. And without further ado, I'm going to give the floor up to Leif, who's going to be able to help us understand a little bit more about advanced movement mechanics.
Hi, I'm Leif. If you don't know me, I make movement-related videos typically on very specific mechanics and how exactly they work. Apart from the more foundational movement Deathy has talked about, Deadlock has a lot of quirks that can affect moving in less obvious or more situational ways. While a character's in the air in Deadlock, air drag will slow them over time. The minimum air drag value is 0.2 in the console. This is a percentage of velocity subtracted each tick. At the end of an air dash, a character also loses about 20% of their total velocity as a penalty. This is also considered air drag. After leaving a transit line with a crouch, a character is immune to air drag for 2 seconds. Dodging this air drag penalty is what ends up making zip dashes so good. This applies to instant air dashes too. A true instant air dash leaves you grounded, and sliding immediately will avoid the air drag penalty. When sliding, the friction coefficient is 0.1875 and decreases to 0.175 for dash slides. After landing into a slide from a slide hop, jumping before 0.5 seconds have passed slaps you with a large air drag penalty. If a slide lasts too long, slide friction goes up to above 3.0. Still, this means that for a small window at least, sliding can be better for keeping speed. This doesn't consider air strafing, which allows air acceleration from movement keys to accelerate you beyond the air control limit. Holding W with 0 gravity, I accelerate to 80 units. This is the default air control limit. It won't go beyond this unless I change the angle of the acceleration. The faster you're already moving, the steeper the required angle. Strafing between 85 and 90 degrees is typically best. When done correctly, strafing makes being in the air better than sliding for maintaining speed. Movement isn't the only thing that strafing concepts apply to. Just like air control, there comes a point where air dashing in the direction the character's moving gives no velocity at all, instead only subjecting them to the 20% air drag penalty. When air dashing at a running pace, it's better to angle about 50 degrees away. This can be done easily by holding W and A or D and turning into the dash slightly. Going faster, the ideal angle grows wider, eventually nearing 90 degrees. I have some very in-depth videos in my air strafing playlist relating to these angles if they interest you. Air acceleration also interacts uniquely with walls, allowing strafing or strafe dashing into walls at angles to generate velocity. Apart from strafing, edge boosting might be the most useful movement concept to learn. Wall jumps in Deadlock can be performed for a brief time after losing contact with the wall. An edge boost is a wall jump performed after the character slides off the end of the wall, which allows the wall jump's impulse to be added to their existing velocity. You can think of this as the direction of the wall jump becoming angled. Consider a spot where the wall and the floor end in the same place. An edge boost can be performed here with only one jump input to trigger the wall jump after you've walked off the floor. Edge boosts are harder to hit at high speed, but also still useful no matter how fast you're already moving. Deadlock mantling is simple in principle, but can give even more speed under the right conditions. For instance, when performing a mantle jump, the jump input can also trigger a wall jump if the character is airborne at the end of the mantle. This allows certain mantles performed while pressed up against a wall to trigger both the mantle jump and wall jump with one jump input. Many locations also allow a mantle to set up for an edge boost, chaining the speed forward rather than to the side. Some of these spots can be quite useful. Another option is to mantle jump straight into an edge boost requiring two jump inputs, such as this mid-to-vent jump. Once you start looking for them, you'll find these everywhere. Another good friend of edge boosting is the dash cancel. By inputting two crouches, or by binding crouch to scroll wheel and scrolling at once, a dash can be cancelled early. Double tapping crouch will result in a slide that may be jumped out of. This can also be done by scrolling a crouch input and then holding your actual crouch key. By scrolling to cancel the dash and then immediately jumping, a short hop can be performed. This is useful for spacing edge boosts since dash distance can't be reduced any other way while still allowing a jump. Deadlock also allows wall jumping on the upward facing edge of a floor. This was featurized into a mechanic called corner boosting. A corner boost is a wall jump performed while colliding with the ledge at the edge of a floor. This results in greatly increased jump height. Only pressing jump while in contact with the geometry will properly execute a corner boost. Jumping either too early or too late will fail. This typically results in a wasted double jump, but it can also cause a regular wall jump instead. When attempting corner boost, strafing toward the ledge you're attempting to boost on can be very helpful. By strafing slowly toward the ledge, you have better control of where you collide with it. Adjusting movement keys and camera angles can allow you to stay in contact with the surface for more time, giving a larger window for the corner boost. Although it's one of the harder things to master, it can be performed very practically after mantling certain railings or signs. While holding space, approach a railing head-on. A quick melee can be used to press space without jumping. After mantling the railing, time a jump input. No other movement is required after the start of the mantle. Many signs give a similar boost, the most useful ones being these next to the rune towers. Railing corner boosts can be made even more useful by strafing the mantle slide into them to gain horizontal velocity. When starting a mantle in Deadlock, the character can mantle slide within a 180-degree cone centered on their facing at the time the mantle animation begins. In order to reliably slide as close to 90 degrees away as possible, the camera can be turned very slightly before the slide to place the A or D input inside the edge of this cone. This can maintain the timing-based corner boost input on railings without being too stationary. In most of these techniques, the map itself is part of the learning factor. Many surfaces in the Deadlock map are not representative of their collision boxes. When trying to practice edge boosting or corner boosting, it's better to experience them on as many different walls and ledges as possible. As an example, some ledges are significantly easier to corner boost on, such as the rail in the mid-trench. These ledges have slanted geometry that lets the character stay in contact with them much longer. They can even be surfed. Other ledges are much sharper and provide a smaller area to successfully collide with. This results in a tighter timing window. Thanks for watching, and may your fundamentals carry you in many games to come.